Welcome everybody. Today we're talking about Plymouth Marine art. So we're going to be looking through the sort of PML's long history of art and science collaborations. And I'm presenting this on behalf of the Art Science Committee. So I was assuming there'd be more external people. So for those that don't know me, which I think I know everybody here anyway, I'm basically a Earth system modeler working on simulations of the global scale model of the ocean. So that includes a lot of work with CMIP. I did a lot of analysis on CMIP 6, and that fed into several multi-modeling comparisons in historical simulations and future simulations in the IPCC report. But so basically, modeling stuff is kind of my wheelhouse. This is all a bit outside of that. But I also moonlight as a musician. I got a Spotify page and I'm in a local band and we play weddings and pubs and that kind of thing. And music has always been a really big part of my life. And in terms of before I became a scientist, many of you probably remember my father, Stephen Demora, from his time at PML, though he probably didn't look like that. But you may also remember outside his office, there was this painting with a marine theme. I don't know if it's still there outside Chris' office, but it's painted by my mother, and she's actually quite a well-achieved artist. She's been painting my entire life, and she's exhibited all over the world and several times in Plymouth. And a lot of her paintings have a marine theme. So I was very much brought up in a science and art family. If that makes sense. And that's kind of one of the reasons why I'm so excited about art science collaborations now. So today's seminar, we're basically it's got three parts. The first is I'm going to introduce the committee. Is that a question from the...
I think it's just already admitted.
Okay, someone online is handling that.
Okay.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much. Yeah, so three parts. I'm going to be introducing the committee, then showing some art that was made with external artists, and then showing some art made by artists within PML. And yeah, so those are the three big parts. So the first question is, what is art and science collaborations? And I always think of it as when scientific research is incorporated into creative media. So that's scientific research, data, or ideas. And I'm just going to show some of my sort of favorite ones from popular media. So you probably remember the movie Interstellar. Well, it famously had a massive black hole that was one of the sort of main characters of the film. But that black hole was actually modeled by Kip Thorne, who's a renowned cosmologist. And it was one of the most scientifically accurate views of a black hole ever created. It's for the film, but on the back of it, Kip published several papers about black holes and what they really would look like. So it was a really interesting collaboration between scientists and filmmakers. And another big one is Jurassic Park. Like everybody knows Jurassic Park, but the actual underlying research was inspired by scientific research, where George Poignard Jr. discovered that amber could preserve interstellar structures. You may remember about 10 years ago where Chris Hadfield played Space Oddity aboard the International Space Station. So he was very much up there to do research. And then he produced this wonderful piece of art, which still holds up now. It's still a great video and he sings beautifully. And so if you don't know that one, it's worth checking out. Salvador Dali, The Persistence of Memory, is supposedly inspired by Einstein's theory of special relativity, where time isn't necessarily uniform in special relativity. Units of time can be changed depending on your frame of reference. And so that's kind of one of the basic ideas of this famous painting. And many people here probably watch Big Bang Theory too, but that frequently has accurate particle physics theories. So I love this one because it's a top to W boson decay, and then this anyway, Python diagrams, great. And my favorite one though, it's a terrible movie, so bear with me. It's a truly terrible film called Sahara. And I love it because in this film, there's this one scene where they're having a speedboat chase and they're getting shot at by terrorists, I think. terrorists, freedom fighters, terrorists, somebody like that. And they take a sample off the side of a torpedo that fires at them. They run it through the sampling machine. They get some genetic sequence, and then they make a simulation of that, which shows that they're in a river. And when the ecosystem simulation they make, when it reaches the global ocean, the whole ocean dies. And they do this during a speed chase. And it's the only time I've ever seen ecosystem modeling in a film. And of course, it's very accurate. It's what we do every day. I love it. And it's worth watching the whole movie just for that, like, little 3-minute sequence. So those are kind of some fun examples that, you know, but the key thing to note is that these ideas travel really far. The idea that you can get DNA from amber, even if it's not DNA, it's just mitochondria, that is, you know, billions of people in the world have seen Jurassic Park and have come across that idea. So, you know, art science collaborations can travel so much further than the original piece of science ever could. So there's definitely like scope to include it. So that's one of the reasons why scientists should collaborate or consider collaborating with artists. Like by provoking like an emotional response, the art can really make science much more visible, tangible, and memorable. You know, and you can get these really highly visible, attention-grabbing outcomes that can travel so much further than a piece of research ever could. Somebody online, could you mute yourself, please? Yeah, the artist can provide a really valuable outsider perspective on a piece of science as well, and that can even reframe how we see things. And of course, we showcase the beauty of everyday science and art, and there's, once again, the huge outreach potential. There is funding available, and it's actually really fun. So that's kind of some of the reasons why. So the approach of the Art Science Committee here at PML is we're not here to commission artists. This is what we want. Please make a piece of art. We're here to treat it as, you know, art is its own, has its own identity, has its own discipline, its own approach, and its own integrity. We're not here to just order around artists. It's very much a two-way street. We're here for collaboration, not utilization. And artists and scientists should always be treated as equal partners. Now, the one thing I would say is that it's entirely valid to commission a piece of work. Say you have a very specific idea that you need to have a figure done, then that's very much that's less of an art science collaboration and very much a commission. So today we're just focusing on the collaboration side of things. Oh, hello, Stephen and Stephanie. Nice to see you. You're at the back. You can give them a wave if you want. Okay, you didn't see that, but everyone waved. So the Art Science Committee, we were founded in 2021, and the idea is we provide a point of contact between artists and scientists. We provide guidelines, best practice, and ideally, and never have to do mediation, but the option is we say we will in case it ever happens. Can't imagine it being a problem, but we put it there. So we're here to help find funding and calls and assist with proposal writing and getting art into scientific proposals and getting science into art proposals. We're here to support PML scientists to generate their own creative products. Not scientists, PML staff. And we're here to keep track of successful art science collaborations. Now, the actual people on the committee are here. Could you raise your hand if you're in the committee in the room? Yeah. And a few online as well. Brilliant. Yeah, so we've got 12 of us, and we cover, like, you know, a really wide distribution all over PML, all the science groups and administrative groups and everybody, operational staff. And if you do need to reach out to us, our email address is Art Science Committee at PML. And we will all receive that email, and we're all more than happy to respond to any questions you have. So first part of this talk, I'm going to showcase some external collaborations that we've participated in the past. There's quite a few videos here, so many of them might be a bit too long to show in total. I think it comes to 42 minutes of video in total, so I'm going to not show all of them, but some of them are very much worth watching. Starting with this one, the Infinity Blue by Studio Swine. So Infinity Blue is a film and sculpture installation that's permanently on display at the Eden Project in the Invisible World section. So the Invisible Worlds is all about showing worlds that can't be seen with the naked eye because they're too small or too large, too fast. And PML provided photobioreactors and access to the quest for the film and lots of scientific input on the artistic product. So here's the film here. Please let me know if you can't see it. This project I wanted to talk about was the CoastWeb project. So this included several PML folks as well. And this project was about valuing the contribution of coastal habitats to human health and well-being, with a focus on the alleviation of natural hazards. So this was a project that was funded by the Arts and Humanities Research Council, the Economies and Social Research Council, and NERC, of course. It was led by the University of Exeter, but the artist Simon Reed was included in the project team, and he's an illustrator. And he produced these large-scale drawings, as you can see in this middle top pane here. And there was a few that he produced of estuaries, and they're kind of these maps of really detailed drawings. And I'm not going to attempt Gwyndaidd. And then at the end of the project, they exhibited these pieces along with photographs and scientific results at the Royal Geographical Society and the Norwegian Church. So that's a kind of example of a project where an artist was brought into a scientific project from the start and attended the meetings and then produced art as a result of the scientific work. Now, waterfronts. Now, this was a student project where Peter contributed a video of ocean fronts mapped from satellite data to a student at the Arts University. Well, at the time it was a PCA, the College of Art. And then the student took those videos and then generated a video art. And at the same time, Elaine Fallerman shared a video of zooplankton behavior that was produced here at PML. And it was a similar kind of idea where a video was given to the student for a project, and then a piece of video art was created. And I'll just show these ones like back to back. Quite amazing, the stuff you can see with a microscope, right? So yeah, those were both projects where, like I said, a video was given to a student and then they produced a project based around it. And I don't know how well the students did one with the other, but it produced these wonderful videos we have to share now. The next piece I was going to talk about, so this was an example of commissioning an artist to participate in a scientific event. This is hosted by Jen Lockett, who I believe is joining us online, where we had an impact forum at PML. And this was, I think this was kind of mid-COVID times, 2021-ish. So the artist attended remotely, but they listened in to the meetings via Teams and Zoom. And then for each section of the talk, they produced a little piece of artwork that detailed what was discussed and sort of themes of each section. And this is what 5 of them looked like. And you can kind of see the things that the artist captures is quite interesting and allows you to sort of summarize. You can kind of almost figure out what these people were talking about from the work. So yeah, quite an interesting piece. The cross currents. For those who were in the meeting before, I discussed this already. So this was a group of poets who were paired with PML scientists. So each poet and scientist were paired together, and then the poets then went off and created poems and word art. And then we hosted this event in this room so as a sort of celebration of the work. So I was paired with Ben Smith, who produced a series of 4 poems, all of which were published in the Magma Poetry Journal, which is nice to have. And at the time, we were working on model spin-up for the United Kingdom Earth System model. And at that stage, what was quite frustrating with my day-to-day work was that we were looking at this model and running it and tuning it. And the process of doing that is that you wind up introducing bugs and removing bugs. And sometimes things are wrong and you just need to throw away the simulation and start again. And so Ben really latched onto that idea. And he took it and he wrote what I think is the world's first poem about model spin-up. So if you indulge me, I'll read it out because Ben couldn't make it today in person. So what I won't think about are the glitches in the system. the one where after 400 years of smooth running, the ocean disgorges its carbon skywards, like iron filings drawn up by a magnet. I won't dwell on it. I won't dwell on the model where a sudden storm deposited a cloud of sediment, causing a plankton bloom that fused all the world's water into a stiff organic paste. I won't think of that paste, its texture or smell, grainy, vegetable. And I won't think of the other model where, after the smallest change in the initial calculations, all marine life evaporated, leaving the sea bright as a pause lens. Instead, I'll look out of my dusty window at the blue tit hanging on the back of a fern, the plum tree teetering on the edge of spring, and try to find other words for precarious, momentary, imminent. Try not to think of all the hard drives filled with terabytes of failed worlds that never even made it to now. So, yeah, thanks, Ben, for that. And I often think about this last section here, the failed worlds that never made it to now. And that, is such a characteristic of modeling. So many times you wind up in a situation where like a lot of work just goes straight in the bin because of a small mistake. And yeah, Ben now actually is an artist at residence at the Met Office and the University of Exeter. So if you do see him in your travels, tell him I say hi. And I look forward to seeing the next thing he produces with them. So this was the next project is going to talk about. This is a small project with the Salisbury Road Primary School. So Asa and Devon artist Kate Crawford, they went to this primary school and they introduced the concept of remote sensing. So they taught the kids about how remote sensing works. And then the kids went out and put a sticky disc in the pond. So a sticky disc is basically a white circle with it on a tape measure. So you put it in the water until you can't see it anymore. And then that's a measurement of how clear the water is. So the kids loved it. And then after that, Kate went and painted a marine themed mural in the school's lunchroom. And so this kind of project is just a short time scale, but it's quite impactful. And this is, yeah, it overlaps with the ocean literacy work that Gennady does, of course. So I'm conscious of time, so I'm going to keep moving. The planet ocean at the box. So this was a piece of work where Tim contributed the Western Channel Observatory datasets to a local artist who then produced a visualization of this point cloud. Now, unfortunately, this is actually, this blue screen is actually a video, and I could not figure out a way to embed a video from Twitter into PowerPoint. So we just have a still shot. But these points, if you go to the exhibit, which is open until 2025, you'll see them swirling around all over the place. And this visualization was produced by Nathan Gale. And it's actually the exhibition title piece. So it's the first thing you see when you walk into the room, and it's how they used it to advertise it on Twitter. And that's, PML data. So very exciting to be participating in that. Penny Lindeque has an upcoming work with light artist Bruce Monroe. So he's best known for the Field of Light at the Eden Project. And this piece is currently in progress to be exhibited in 2025. And it will be based around a theme of mussels and microplastics. So these are some of Bruce's other works that get exhibited all over the world. So we'll look forward to seeing that. Okay, next moving on to another PML-led project called Blue Communities. So I think there was over a dozen PML scientists working in this project. It was quite a large group of us. I wasn't in it, as communal us. And involved lots of Southeast Asian communities. And so Dr. Isabel Richter from the university produced illustrations for each of the case studies. So, and each illustration is, I guess you could call them more infographics, but they show a little bit of what's important locally, but also shows the environmental stresses that are affecting each region. So it's art, but it's also includes a lot of information that came out as a result of the research. And secondly, in the Blue Communities Project, there was also an outreach program with a local school. They produced a song, I can change the name. And similarly, Helen Finley worked with Ridgeway School and Sundog Media to produce this claymation film called The Other CO2 Problem. And this one was awarded a first prize for the Royal Society of Chemistry, a Bill Prize for scientific communication. it's quite an impressive feat that these kids managed to make this video. Like, claymation is notoriously like time-consuming, and they produced this wonderful sort of story about CO2 and ocean acidification. And this was in 2009. So good on them. Definitely deserve the prize. Now this piece, this is Aquavideo 2020. So this focuses on ocean acidification again, but the impact on marine organisms. So it opens up with a piece of Anna Kiros's work, a 3D scan of a sea snail shell that's been impacted by ocean acidification. This was a multi-screen installation at the Museum of Architecture and Technology in Lisbon. And yeah, this is a very long video, so I'll only show the start. But it's definitely worth watching again, because it really does cover.
Who will heal the fish from their muteness? They cannot praise the Lord through their song. They cannot confess their faults through their voices.
Yeah, I'll stop it there. But once again, I encourage you to go check it out. Okay, so just to summarize our list of collaborations with external artists. So we have projects where we contribute towards existing art projects, where we co-supervise student projects, where we commission artists, where we invite artists onto PML-led projects. We do artistic collaborations with schools, and we've done scientist and artist pairing projects. So it's really quite a diverse set of ways to work with external artists, and I'm sure we could add others, and this is by no means a complete list of all the things we've done. But these are just some of the examples of ways that we have worked with artists. So the next thing was moving on to showcasing some of our own in-house artists. So this is what I've been excited about, because it's, when we first started the Art Science Committee, we did a survey of PML staff, and we got 36 responses. And of those 36 people, 30 of them regularly make their own art. So this was, and these are the categories that people make. So we have potters, writers, musicians, photographers, visual artists. We have a podcaster somewhere in the building that I wasn't aware of. We have jewelers, all sorts of stuff really. And yeah, I mean, obviously there's probably some self-selection bias here. If you're more interested in art, you're more likely to respond to the survey. But it's my feeling that as scientists, like, it's not some niche interest to make art. I would imagine that, most people at PML have some kind of artistic interest or hobby. And I know from a fact, from the top down, like, I've seen Icarus's guitar collection, like, he loves it too. It's not just like a few arty people, it's everyone. So I'm going to start here with the art projects from PML kind of go on a scale from a piece of work that's done as a scientific research all the way to art that's made for fun. So we're starting at the more researchy end. So this was a drone video made by ASA. So I think they were literally just testing the cameras, and they put the drone and just flew it straight up. But they produced this beautiful video of the waves crashing at somewhere along the coast in Cornwall, I believe. I'm not quite sure where. I think it's Penley. Was that? Oh yeah, well, you were there, Robert.
Well, I was there. I don't really remember which one this was, but I'm pretty sure that's Penley.
Penley. Oh yeah. That makes sense. So that's just a short 15-second clip. But we have these drones at PML, and we have drone flyers, and we know how to get all the permits, and it has these fantastic cameras on it, and there's all sorts of scope to produce beautiful imagery with them.
I just saw that he sent a message in the chat saying it's from Spain, and this is on his holidays with his personal drone.
Okay.
You could have just gone to Penley.
So it looks Penley-ish. Thanks, Asa. Okay, next. So this was a video that Pierre Cazenave produced. This is using FVCOM model data. and he produced hypersaline water that sunk to the bottom and then got caught in the tidal currents. And this was submitted to the Archer video competition and came first place. So the sort of cloud is hypersaline water as it travels from a surface source and then eventually dissipates into the background. And while 2018 was definitely a long time ago, I mean, the video still holds up. I still think it's amazing what he did. And I take no credit for the video recommendations. I don't know what Google is doing here. Okay, this one was made by James Clark. It's he used PyLag to produce a Christmas card for PML. It's just a short 7 seconds, but the actual snowflakes at the start are sediment samples from what was called a mystery sea creature, a naked foraminifera. And it had only ever been previously recorded in Scotland and Norway, and it was actually quite widely distributed. So you can see it traveling up, especially along the Gulf Stream, and then it pops into PML. So you can kind of, what I really love to do is to use a scientific tool and make art with the scientific tool. It's not going out and painting, it's using something that we have already, that we have expertise in, like James did with PyLag here, and then generating something creative from that. So that's kind of what I've done here with the marine heat waves. It's a piece of music. So it was part of the Earth System Music Project, which was United Kingdom Earth System Audio KSM project. So we had an outreach stall at the Blue Dot Science and Music Festival at Jodrell Bank in 2019. And it was great. It was a wonderful music festival. The headliner was, what are they called? Kraftwerk. So that was great. And it was literally right underneath the telescope. You can see on the left of the picture there. And we had this wonderful touchscreen globe, and we had all sorts of interactive stuff, but we didn't have any music. So on the back of that, I decided that we should probably try to make some music with our model. And so what we did is we just linked the pitch of the sound to the data value within a specific range. So you can kind of see this was a diagram of the first piece we produced in that series. So the drain passage current had a range of 130 spare drops to 180 spare drops, and we linked that between C5 and C7 on a keyboard. And then similarly, these other fields were linked to different ones. And when the data went up, the note on the piano went higher. And so that was the sort of the initial idea behind it. And then different parts played different musical roles in the piece. So, and then we processed it and produced these videos. And that was about 2021. And more recently, I've been doing the simulations for the Mission Atlantic project. So that's a global simulation of Nemo Ursum. At the same time, I was also I made the first forecast of the Ascension Island marine protected area. So trying to understand how that marine space is going to change in the future. And so using the data from Mission Atlantic and my experience with the Ascension Island, I decided to create this marine heat waves piece where I linked the 4 different data sets to distinct sounds. So instead of being all 4 pieces played by the piano, we have one that's played by a piano, one that's played by a synth bass, one that's played by a theremin kind of sound, and one that's played by a sort of 80s synth bass, synth mid note. And the diagrams don't really capture the sound, but how are you going to capture a sound with a picture anyway? And I'm calling this the world's first matplotlib music video. It's too self-indulgent to show the whole thing. I'm sorry. You'll have to check it out on your own later. It's just too much. Okay, so but like I said, that was one of the really fun things to use tools where we have a lot of expertise already, and then use that to create something new. So instead of trying to use a new tool, just literally take something that you've done 1,000,000 times already for various scientific works, and then create something really fun with it. So yeah, that's the general idea. So the next thing I was going to talk about was Arctic Live. So this was a science outreach trip that Helen Finley was on, which was a trip to Svalbard. and it was set to include live lessons, like hosted directly from the Arctic on the cruise, but it was planned for March 2022. So you can imagine that it didn't go according to plan. It ran remotely as a Lego adventure. So Helen had like a little mini figurine that she called Mini Helen. That is a little Lego version of herself. And she did exactly the same outreach, but by putting her little yellow, little Lego figurine doing all these adventures for her. So it's quite an innovative and fun solution to a problem. And I think she would much rather have gone on the cruise personally, but she managed to make the most out of a bad situation. Okay, now this is marine themed pottery here at PML. So we actually have some fairly accomplished potters in PML. Thank you. I see all of you are attending online, so thanks a lot. Matt Cole has produced these zooplankton potteries. The three in the middle are actually from my personal collection. These are gifts that my friends have given me from PML. And it never stopped being funny that Ming made a Ming vase. It was a wedding present and I love it so much. And then on the right is Jellyfish by Jess Hurd, who, as you know, is also a potter from PML. She frequently exhibits in she has like a space, a little shop around Totnes, I believe. Please put it in the chat, Jess, if you want to mention that. Okay, so now we have a poem by our very own Steph, who's going to come and read it out. So maybe introduce it.
Yeah. Well, this is quite something to follow now as the last person. So last year I was walking around town and they had in the old Waterstone shop the Climate Cafe, and they offered creative writing courses. And I thought, oh, this sounds like something I could do. And so basically we were asked by the poet and teacher to write a sonnet. So this is the sonnet that I then worked around a little bit to add it into the Climate Creators Challenge. And it's called Coastal Erosion. And you can see that I'm really scientific the way I'm thinking about this. So New Jerseyization, I first saw in New Jersey. Coastal erosion washing gardens away. Stronger winds create bigger waves. Chinese mitten crabs dig burrows, producing intertidal caves, making flood defenses hollow. While breakwaters to erosion contribute, seagrass and salt marsh stabilize the shore. Let's give man-made structures the boot. Nature-based solutions is the best we have in store. Let nature help us adapt to man-made climate change and mitigate the reduction of the intertidal range.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, so Steph submitted that to the Climate Creators Challenge #4 and was shortlisted in that, which is where I have these quote from the judge and the description of it. And just to take a moment, the Climate Creators Challenge is a wonderful competition, and I strongly recommend anybody who's produced an art on the theme to contribute something, because it really does get seen by a lot of people. So moving on to some painting and drawing at PML. So we have Meryl from our group, who are from the Art and Science Committee, who produced this and all sorts of beautiful drawings that we've seen. Deep is also Deep from the Art and Science Committee is also a drawer, and he's donated this picture to the PML, so hopefully we can find some space to display it. And one thing I was going to mention is this mystery artist. So for those that aren't from PML, we have like a surface that you can draw on in one of the break rooms, and this picture of tentacles appeared there in the first couple of weeks that the room was available. And if it gets smudged, someone will come along and fix it. We have no idea who drew it, But if you do want to, like, out yourself as a mystery artist, please let us know. I'm so curious. Can I run in-house Banksy? But yeah, it's just no one has dared to erase it. It's been there for years. Anyway. Okay, so like photography, as you saw from the survey, is actually very popular here at PML too. So here's some pictures that Deep produced of the hoe. And, absolutely spectacular. And Kevin Flynn from the modeling group is also very keen on macro photography as well as drone photography. And similarly, Severine from the modeling group. So these are honestly, these are just pictures that they sent in the modelers WhatsApp group. And I asked them for permission, of course. But this is just like private snaps that people are sharing with me. I imagine there's all sorts of spectacular art that's being made by people at PML. And of course, we did have a competition when we just first set up the Breakwater Lounge upstairs. And there's all this artwork on display up there. And it's contributed by dozens of people at PML. And that must be 5-6 years ago that we did that. So I imagine that you did that again and we'd have orders of magnitude more art to display. So just to summarize, like we have this scale of how tightly artistic products link with the science that we're doing. So we have art that's a direct output of a research project. And I did that mistakenly thinking that was part of a research work, but that actually turns out that was his holiday shot. So I'm completely wrong there, sorry. But you get the idea. We have art that's made using scientific data and tools like Jim's PyLab and my piece. We have art that's made explicitly for outreach and education. We have art that's inspired by our research. We have art with a marine theme. So how connected it is with the science is it's a sliding scale. And then we have stuff that's not directly related to marine research at all. And there's no good or bad. That's just ways that we can think about the art that we produce. So that just kind of is there to summarize the art. So artists and scientists do have a lot in common. We're all motivated by creativity, curiosity, discovery, and innovation. And the reason that I showed this picture of Einstein in the style of Van Gogh is that those two are very much some of the biggest figures in science and art of the previous century. And it's so important to remember that Einstein's love in life was the violin. He did physics as a job, but he took his violin with him everywhere he went. He was obsessed with it, and he could have performed at a very high level. And then on the other hand, Van Gogh was an innovator in terms of artistic technique. He used all sorts of cutting-edge new paints and new methods and developed all sorts of artistic techniques that are still in use today. So while you think of them as an artist and a scientist, even these two guys were both artists and scientists. As we mentioned, science-themed art can make an idea really stand out, travel further, and become memorable and have an emotional impact. And finally, the Art and Science Committee is here to help create new partnerships and support artists at PML. Just before I finish, I also want to mention we have some upcoming opportunities. If anybody is enthused by these ideas and would like to get involved, either as a scientist or an artist or both, then please contact the committee and get stuck in. There's definitely a scope for doing more. Thanks a lot.